Hi, my name's Andrew Durand, and today I'm going to show you how to get started with the Go programming language. But first, some background. Go is a new general-purpose programming language. It was designed to give the performance benefits of a compiled, statically typed language with the workflow of a scripting language. It incorporates concurrency primitives that make it easy to write programs for today's asynchronous networked world. Also, great care was taken in Go's design to be clear and consistent in the language features and its standard libraries. All this combined makes programming in Go both productive and fun. Go began as a 20% project among some Googlers in 2007. In November 2009, it was released to the world as an open source project, which attracted hundreds of contributors from the open source community. In March 2012, we released Go version 1, a specification of the language and libraries that will be supported for years to come. In the tutorial today, we're going to learn about Go version 1. So let's get started. The first thing you must do is install Go. You can install the Go compiler on most popular operating systems and processor architectures. I won't go through the installation process now, as it varies from platform to platform. Just visit golang.org and follow the instructions there to get started. So now that we have a Go installation, let's test that everything is working. Put this code into a file named hello.go, and then on the command line, use the Go tool to compile and run that program. You should see the greetings, fellow Gopher. This indicates that the installation was successful and that your Go compiler is working properly. The Go tool that we've just used is the standard tool for building, testing, and installing Go programs. As we just saw, we could use it to compile and run a program in an ad hoc kind of way. You can also use it to run tests. This command line here runs the tests in the archive zip package from the standard library. These two commands will build and format the files in the current directory, and it can also be used to fetch packages from remote repositories. This command line fetches the WebSocket package from the go.net subrepository. So the Go tool is a zero configuration tool that derives all its build instructions from the Go source code itself. There's no need to write and maintain build scripts when using the Go tool. But for this to work, some prescribed directory structure is necessary, and we call this a workspace. A workspace is a directory which has three subdirectories: the bin subdirectory for containing executable binaries, the package subdirectory for compiled object files, and the source subdirectory, which contains your Go source code. The first two directories are generally maintained by the Go tool itself, while the third directory is a hierarchy that you will maintain yourself. So let's create a workspace now. I usually use the name Go code in my home directory as the root of my workspace, but you can choose anything that's most convenient to you. We create the source directory ourselves because that's the one that we're going to maintain, but the bin and package subdirectories will be maintained by the Go tool. Now tell the Go tool where the workspace is by setting the Go path environment variable. And you may also want to add the Go paths bin subdirectory to your path, to your system path. Now you need to choose a namespace in which your personal code is going to live. I use the root of my GitHub account, github.com/nf, as that can also be used with go-get to automatically fetch these packages. And now I'm going to create a hello directory inside my namespace and copy our hello world program there. And now I can use the go install command with the full path of my new package to build and install the executable to my go paths bin subdirectory. And there I see my greeting. So let's talk about the project we're going to do today. Our project is going to be a command line tool for fetching and displaying the most recent headlines from the Golang page on the popular link aggregation site Reddit. The program will make an HTTP request to the Reddit API, decode the JSON response into a Go data structure, and then print each link's title, URL, and the number of comments. To get started, let's create a path for our directory inside our namespace called Reddit. This is where we're going to put our Go source files. This is the beginning of our program, and it makes an HTTP request to the Reddit API and copies the response to your console standard output. We'll take the contents of this file and put it inside a file named main.go inside the Reddit directory. There's a lot of code there, so let's walk through the program piece by piece. Our program begins with a package statement. All Go code belongs to a package, and Go programs begin with function main inside package main. Since this is an executable program, we put it in package main. Next comes an import declaration. The declaration specifies the file's dependencies. Each string is an import path, which instructs the Go tools where it can find the required package. These packages here are all from the standard library. Next is a function declaration. Our main function takes no arguments and returns no values. We'll see some more complex function declarations later. The first line of the function makes a function call to the HTTP package's get function. The get function returns two values, an HTTP response and an error value. Yeah, that's right. Go functions can return multiple values. We assign the response and the error value to two new variables, resp and er. Next, we check the err value to see whether it is nil. Nil is the zero value for an error. If an error has occurred, the err value will not be nil. If an error didn't occur, it will be nil. So if an error has occurred, we use the log package's fatal function to print that error to standard error and then exit the program. After checking the error of the request, we need to check that the successful HTTP request returned a status OK. So we check the response object's status code field to test whether it is a 200 OK response. If not, we'll call log.fatal again, this time to print the response string to standard output before exiting. Next, we use the IO package's copy function to copy the response body to the standard output. The IO copy function takes a reader value and a writer value and copies the contents of the reader to the writer. The response body implements IO reader, while the OS standard out represents IO writer. We'll see other examples of this interface later on. So let's take a look at that program in action now. So there's our JSON blob. You can see that it's pretty inscrutable, so we need to decode it before we can do something with it. So the Reddit API returns JSON in this kind of form. It has a root object with a data field, containing another object with a children field, containing a list of objects which each have a data field, and finally we have the object with the actual post data. So it's kind of deeply nested in that way. The way Go's JSON package works is that it decodes JSON encoded data into native Go data structures by matching the field names. And so to decode this response, we need to set up some Go data types that resemble the JSON response object. First of all, let's start with this inner piece of data. We define an item struct, which is named item, which has two fields, title and URL, which are both strings. The JSON value, when decoding this inner value, will assign the title field to title and the URL field to our object's URL field. And now to represent the rest of the object, we declare this response struct. And the response struct contains one field, data, which is itself a struct, which contains another field, children, which is a slice of structs. A slice in Go is like a list or an array, but we won't be talking about slices in detail in this talk. Each slice contains a single field, data, which contains an item value. And so you can sort of see how this data structure and the item structure inside it resemble our JSON. To decode the response, instead of just copying the response body to standard output, we're going to create a response object and store a pointer to that object in R. And then we use the JSON new decoder function to create a decoder that reads from the response body. And then we invoke the decode method on our decoder, passing in the pointer to our response. This makes the decoder read from the response body, decoding all of the JSON fields into our response object. Finally, we store the decode method's error value in our variable. Now we need to print the data. To do that, we use a for loop to iterate over our children slice, printing each child's title in turn. This for loop uses a range clause, which is a kind of shorthand for iterating over internal data types such as slices and maps. For each iteration of the loop, we assign a value from the child slice to this child variable. This underscore here signifies that I'm ignoring a value. If I'd put a variable name there, it would be assigned to the index of the slice at each part through the loop. Let's look at that in action. And now we see a list of titles. So now we have a program that works, but it's just one function, and so it's not very extensible or maintainable. As the scope of our program grows, structure and modularity will become more important. What if we want to check several subreddits in turn, or share this functionality with another program? To address these concerns, let's create another function named get that takes the name of a subreddit, makes an API call, and returns the items for that subreddit and an error value. This function definition here, get, takes a string named Reddit, which will specify the name of our subreddit, and returns a slice of items and an error value. So let's walk through our new function. It begins by constructing the URL that we're going to make the request to, using the sprintf function. The sprintf function takes a format string, in this case the bulk of our string, with a %s where we want to substitute in the Reddit, and then the next argument is our Reddit string. So if Reddit was Golang, this would be reddit.com/r/golang.json. And we store this in the URL variable. Then we make our HTTP request as before and check the error. But notice that this time, instead of calling log.fatal to bail out of the program, we want to return the error. And so we return a nil value for our item slice, indicating that there are no items to return, and our value as our error value. But notice that when we handle the response code later on, our status field is actually a string, not an error value. To convert this string into an error value, we use the errors.new function. After making the HTTP request, we need to be sure to clean up. We didn't do this previously because all of the action was taking place in the main function, and we know that when the function returns, the program shuts down, cleaning up any open TCP sockets and so on. But in this case, with our get function, it could be used in the context of a bigger program, and so we need to make sure to clean up the HTTP request when the function exits. We do this by calling the close method on the response body, which shuts down the underlying TCP connection. And this defer keyword here ensures that regardless of where the function exits, whether it's on a bad status code or on a bad JSON decode or on a successful request, that this function call is made after the function returns. Next, we prepare our item slice to return. We do this by initializing a new slice of items with the make function with the same length as the children in our response body. Then we iterate through the response body, assigning each child's data item to the corresponding field in our item slice. And finally, we return our items and a nil value to signify success. Now let's use the get function in our main function. So I throw away most of the contents of the main function and replace it with a single call to get, passing in the string Golang to signify the Go subreddit. We then assign the returned items to a new items variable and the error to the variable. And in our for loop at the bottom, we now just iterate over the items slice, and for each item, we print the item's title. But only printing the titles isn't very helpful. Let's address that. Go's fumped package knows how to print all of the built-in types, but it can also be told how to print user-defined types. When you pass a value to fumped print, it checks to see if that value implements the fumped stringer interface. The stringer interface contains one method, string, which returns a string. And so any type that implements that string method implements a stringer. And the fumped package will use that method to format values of those types. So let's add a string method to our item type so that our items are printed out more nicely. A method declaration is just like a function declaration, but the receiver comes first. In this case, we specify the receiver item, and inside the function, it will be identified by I. This I is similar to this or self in, say, JavaScript or Python, except in Go, you're encouraged to use a short name that's evocative of the type that it describes. Inside the function, we use this sprintf function from the fumt package to print the title, a new line, followed by the URL. Now, when we want to print the item, we just pass the item into the fumt function. So let's take this a step further. One way to judge the quality or lack thereof of a particular link is to look at the discussion that surrounds it. So let's display the number of comments alongside each link. To do this, we need to get the number of comments from the Reddit API and store it in our item struct. So we'll add this comments field, which is an integer type, to our item struct. But notice that comments is not the same as the num_comments field in the Reddit API response. Underscores are kind of unsightly in Go, and we don't tend to use them. So what I'll do is use what's known as a struct tag to instruct the JSON package that I'm looking for the field num_comments in my JSON for this particular struct field. This means that when decoding, it will look for num_comments instead of comments. And when encoding, it will put it into a num_comments field. And now we can make our string method a little more complex. This string method now uses a switch statement to switch on the number of comments and show nothing if there are 0 comments, to show 1 comment if there is 1 comment, and to show the number of comments if there's more than 1. Notice that unlike many languages, Go's switch statements do not fall through by default. Now when we run our program, we should see a nicely formatted list of links. And now we see each title, and the ones with comments have the number of comments after them. Let's package this up so that we can share it with other people, because it's useful code. Reddit is a good name for our package, and so let's keep it for the package and move our main function elsewhere. Create a subdirectory inside your Reddit directory named getIt and copy your main.go file there. Now let's rename the main.go file inside the Reddit directory to reddit.go, as this will become our package source. Now let's modify the reddit.go file to be a Go package. First, change the package statement at the top of reddit.go from package main to package reddit. It's just a convention that the package name be the same as the last element of the import path, so that it's not surprising when you import a package and then find that it's imported under a different name. The only requirement here is that it is not package main, as again, that signifies an executable command. Next, I need to remove the main function from reddit.go and any unused package imports. Our reddit.go file now looks like this in the overview. Note that I've omitted the bodies of each of these declarations. We have our import block, the response struct, the item struct, its string method, and finally our get method. And let's edit the getIt/main.go file to remove all of those other declarations that are now in the Reddit package and prefix the get invocation with the Reddit dot. Now, let's compile and install our getIt program, which will automatically compile and install our Reddit package if need be. And running it, we should see the same behavior as before. Now let's talk about documentation. The Go distribution provides a tool called GoDoc for displaying Go documentation. Just as the Go tool reads Go source files for deriving build instructions, Godoc reads source files to derive documentation. It's much easier to keep documentation in sync when the documentation and the code that it describes live in the same file. So let's look at the documentation for our Reddit package. You can see our type declarations, the method declaration, and our get function declaration, but not much else. Let's rectify this by adding some documentation to our package. The one big thorn that sticks out in that documentation is the response type. There's no need for it to be part of our public interface. And so we can hide it by renaming it to response with a lowercase r. This is because in Go, top-level declarations that begin with an uppercase letter are considered exported and therefore visible outside the package. All the other names are private and inaccessible to code outside the package. And now, to document the remaining visible names, we just add a comment directly above their declarations. So our item struct has this short string, item describes a Reddit item, and our get function has this string, get fetches the most recent items posted to the specified subreddit. But the most important piece of documentation is our package doc, which we add directly above the package clause. We won't worry about documenting the string method, as all Go programmers should know what that does. Now let's take a look at the Godoc output for our revised package. You'll see that it includes our package doc at the top, and then our get function here describes itself, and the same goes for our item struct. Notice that the response value is now an internal detail and doesn't get presented to the user in Godoc. So now we're ready to share our work with the world. To do this, we'll prepare a source repository and push it to my GitHub account. The first thing you should do is add a copyright notice to each file. And you should also choose your preferred license and put it in the license file in the root of your repository. I'm not going to do this now, but I trust you can figure out how to do it on your own. Next, I'm going to initialize my source control repository with git init, and then prepare a commit with my reddit.go and gedit/main.go files. And then I'll commit that. Then I'll add a remote identifying the GitHub repository. And then push my master branch to that remote. And that's worked. Now, to test that I've done everything correctly, I'm going to reinstall my package using the go get command. So first, I'll blow away everything that I've just done. It's a little nerve-wracking. And you'll see that I only have my hello package inside my namespace now. And then with the go get command, I can fetch and install my package and command. So this command will check out my Reddit repository and then build and install the Reddit package, followed by building and installing the gedit executable. And as with all good Unix commands, the go command says nothing if it succeeds. So now I should be able to type gedit and see the output of my program. The go get command can fetch code from a range of popular code hosting sites, as well as any arbitrary Git Mercurial subversion of Bazaar repository. All you need to do is provide the repository URL on the go get command line. So here are some ideas as to how you can take this further in your own time. You might want to implement a command line interface to specify the subreddit or subreddits to query. You could expand the Reddit package to cover more of the Reddit API, such as user information. And you could learn about Go's concurrency primitives and use them to perform multiple requests in parallel. The first stop for anyone new to Go should be the tour at tour.golang.org. It's an interactive, web-based tour of the language that lets you play with the language right from your browser. Next, visit golang.org/doc for a wealth of documentation, articles, tutorials, code walks, and so on. And finally, the standard library reference at golang.org/package is an indispensable reference for any Go programmer. That's it from me. Thanks for watching.